All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are going deep on one of the most interesting figures in the MCU, Tony Stark. You've sent in some really interesting sources on
Right.
him. And they really go way beyond just that surface level genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist thing.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to dig into this with you. I mean, how does a self-absorbed arms dealer actually become a selfless hero?
Right.
I think that's the core question that we're going to explore here.
Yeah, and it's a question that has resonated with audiences for years now. And I really think it's because Tony's story, it's more than just your typical superhero arc, you know. It's a story of redemption, yeah, but it's also a really interesting commentary on power and responsibility and the choices that we make when we're faced with, like, impossible odds.
You know, one of the things that really jumped out at me when I was looking through the sources you sent was how much Tony's early life,
Yeah.
especially his relationship with his dad, Howard, really shaped him. We see him as this, like, super confident, almost arrogant figure. But it seems like those early years, they left some pretty deep scars.
Oh, absolutely. You've hit on something really crucial there. Um, Howard Stark, I mean, he was a brilliant inventor, right? A key figure in shaping the post-World War II world, but he was also emotionally distant. Can you imagine growing up in the shadow of someone like that? Constantly trying to strive for validation, for recognition. It's really no wonder that Tony developed this need to prove himself, to be the best, even if it meant, cutting corners or making some questionable choices early on.
Yeah, it's like he was trying to fill that void
Yeah.
that his father's emotional absence left with, like achievements, inventions, just being the center of attention. And he was brilliant, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But that brilliance, it seems like it was fueled by this underlying insecurity,
Totally.
this need to constantly prove his worth.
Exactly. And that's what makes his transformation, that first Iron Man movie, so compelling.
Right.
Think about that scene where he's kidnapped and forced to build that very first Iron Man suit in a cave.
Right.
It's not just about escaping, is it?
No.
It's about confronting his own mortality, the destructive power of what he's created, and realizing the true cost of his actions.
You pointed out the symbolism of that cave in your notes. And I
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting, that it's almost like this literal and metaphorical rebirth.
It is. It
He's
is.
stripped of everything. He's forced to face his demons. And
Yeah.
he emerges from that experience a changed man.
100%. It's like that cave is a representation of Tony's internal struggles.
Right.
It's his confrontation with his past,
Yeah.
the consequences of his choices.
Mm.
And when he comes out of that cave, yeah, he's got this new suit of armor,
Yeah.
but he also has this whole new sense of purpose.
And it's not just about fighting bad guys or anything, right? He makes this huge decision when he comes back. He shuts down Stark Industries' weapons division.
Right.
It would have been so easy to just write that off as like a PR stunt or something.
For sure.
But it's clear that it represents like this fundamental shift in his values.
Absolutely. It's not just a business decision. This is a moral reckoning.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging the responsibility for the harm that his company has caused, and he's actively trying to atone for his past.
Yeah, and that seems to be like a recurring theme throughout his whole journey, this whole pursuit of redemption.
Right.
He's constantly trying to make amends, to protect the world from the very threats that he feels responsible for creating. He even admits as much in the first Avengers film. Doesn't he say something like, I've created things that could wipe out a city block, and I'm not the only one?
You're exactly right. That line really encapsulates so much of Tony's guilt and his evolving understanding of the power that he wields. He's not just a genius inventor anymore.
Right.
He's become acutely aware of the potential consequences of his creations and the responsibility that comes with that.
It's like he's trying to outrun his past
Right.
to make up for the mistakes that he's made,
Yeah.
but the past just keeps haunting him.
Exactly. And we see this most clearly in the aftermath of the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
The experience of almost dying, seeing the vastness of the universe and the threats that it holds, it leaves him with some deep psychological scars.
Yeah.
He develops PTSD, as your sources mentioned,
Yeah.
and it manifests in this obsessive suit building and his constant fear of another attack.
It's like he's trying to control the uncontrollable, to
Yeah.
build a shield against all the chaos that he's seen.
Right.
But as we see in Age of Ultron,
Yeah.
that desire for control, it can backfire spectacularly.
Yeah. This is where Tony's genius and his trauma really collide in this disastrous way. He creates Ultron.
Right.
This super intelligent AI that's meant to protect the world, but it ends up being a catastrophic miscalculation.
Right.
It's a powerful example of how even good intentions, when amplified by fear and unchecked ambition, can have devastating consequences.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even with all of his brilliance, Tony's still human.
He
He's
is.
capable of making mistakes, of letting his emotions get in the way, and of causing harm even when he's trying to do good.
Yeah, and that's what makes him such a compelling character.
Right.
He's not a perfect hero.
Yeah.
He's this flawed individual who's constantly grappling with his own demons. But, in that struggle and his willingness to confront his own darkness,
Yeah.
we see this glimmer of hope, this potential for growth and redemption that I think we all connect with.
It's like he's constantly evolving, constantly learning from his mistakes, and trying to become a better version of himself.
Yeah,
And that journey, it takes us through some pretty intense conflicts,
for sure.
both internal and external.
Absolutely.
Speaking of conflicts,
Yeah.
let's talk about civil war and the Sokovia Accords.
Right.
That's where those internal conflicts really come to a head. Just as a reminder for everyone listening, the Sokovia Accords are basically an international agreement
Yeah.
that's supposed to regulate all superhero activity.
Right.
And Tony's support for them, it comes from this deep sense of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
He wants to prevent any more collateral damage. I mean, he's seen firsthand how much devastation these battles can cause.
Absolutely. And he's determined to find a way to control it.
You got it.
But it's not just about preventing future tragedies, is it?
No, it's not.
It also reveals this deeper struggle that he has
Yeah.
between control and freedom.
Hmm.
I mean, he wants to believe that people are inherently good, like Captain America does.
Right.
But his experiences, they've made him wary. They've made him distrustful.
You're right. It's a key insight there. His support for the Accords.
Yeah.
It's not just about, logic or pragmatism.
Right.
It's deeply rooted in his personal trauma and his fear that he's going to repeat the mistakes of his past. He's trying to impose order on a world that just feels more and more chaotic.
Right.
And the Accords represent a way to do that.
And then there's that emotional bombshell that gets dropped on him during all of this.
Oh, yeah.
The truth about his parents' death.
Right.
Finding out that they weren't killed in an accident, that they were murdered.
Yeah.
And that Bucky Barnes was responsible, that the Winter Soldier was responsible. It just completely shatters him. It's a devastating revelation, really. It peels back another layer of his vulnerability.
Right.
Suddenly his need for control,
Yeah.
his desire to protect the world,
Right.
it takes on a whole new meaning. He's
Yeah.
not just trying to prevent these, abstract threats anymore.
Right.
He's trying to prevent the kind of personal loss that he just experienced from happening to anyone else.
And it adds, a whole new layer to his conflict with Cap.
It does.
They're both driven by a sense of justice, obviously,
Yes.
but their approaches are so fundamentally different.
They are.
Tony's driven by the need to control, to regulate,
Yeah.
and Steve believes in trusting people to do the right thing,
Right.
even if it means taking some risks.
It's a clash of ideologies that are rooted in their own personal experiences, their own traumas. And I think it's really testament to the writers that neither side is portrayed as wholly right or wrong.
Yeah.
They both have valid points, and their conflict highlights how complex power and responsibility are and how gray the areas of morality really are.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes Civil War so compelling.
It is.
It's not just a superhero brawl.
No.
It's this philosophical debate that has real stakes.
Yeah.
And real emotional depth.
Absolutely.
And it leaves Tony in a really dark place. He's disillusioned with the Avengers, he's grappling with his demons, and he seems more alone than ever.
And just when you think that he's reached his breaking point,
Yeah.
when he's about to crumble under the weight of all this responsibility and loss,
Right.
he finds something completely unexpected. Fatherhood.
It's fascinating how fatherhood just completely changes Tony.
It really does.
He's always been kind of a lone wolf, right?
Yeah.
Driven by his ambitions, his fears.
Yeah.
But becoming a father to Morgan just opens up this whole other side of him.
It's a huge shift, right?
Yeah.
We see this much softer, vulnerable side of him
Yeah.
that we really haven't seen before. He's still the brilliant inventor, obviously.
Right.
But now he's also building Lego sets and making pancakes. It's almost like he's trying to create this, normal life
Right.
for his daughter.
Yeah.
A life that's free from all the chaos and danger that he's always been drawn to.
You can just see how much he cherishes this newfound peace. This domesticity that he's never really experienced before.
Right.
He's finally found something outside of himself to care about. Something that gives him a sense of purpose beyond just saving the world.
Yeah. But as we all know, the universe has other plans.
Right. Thanos' snap just throws everything into chaos.
Yeah.
Half of all life is gone, including so many of his friends and allies.
Right.
It's just devastating, and you can just tell, like, how deeply it shakes him.
Oh, yeah.
He manages to escape with Nebula,
Right.
but he's stranded out in space,
Yeah.
facing this, like, very real possibility that he might never see Pepper and Morgan again.
Imagine what's going through his mind during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lost everything.
Right.
He's staring his own mortality right in the face.
Right.
And he's totally powerless
Yeah.
to do anything about it.
It's such a far cry from that, like, confident, arrogant Tony Stark that we met back in that first Iron Man movie.
It is.
But even in his darkest hour, he doesn't give up.
Right.
He finds a way to get back to Earth, to reunite with Pepper and Morgan.
Yeah.
And when the opportunity to undo the snap comes up,
Yeah.
to bring everyone back, he doesn't even hesitate.
This is where we see Tony's growth, his
Mhm.
transformation from self-preservation to self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
It all comes together.
Right.
He's not just fighting for himself anymore. He's not even just fighting for the world.
Yeah.
He's fighting for his family,
Yeah.
for the future that
Yeah.
he wants to build with them.
And it's not an easy decision.
No, it's not.
He knows the risks.
Yeah.
He knows that the odds are completely stacked against them.
Right.
And yet he chooses to suit up one last time.
You know, you mentioned in your notes his reluctance to rejoin the fight in Endgame.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks volumes about his new priorities.
Absolutely. He's not that reckless, impulsive hero that we saw in those earlier films.
No, he's not.
He's a father now.
He is.
A protector.
Yeah.
And that responsibility weighs on him.
It does, but ultimately, he knows that he can't just sit on the sidelines
Right.
while the fate of the universe is at stake.
And that leads us to the climax of Endgame.
Yeah.
The final showdown with Thanos.
It's a battle that's been building for years.
Right.
And it all comes down to Tony Stark,
Yeah.
the man who started this whole thing.
The man who started it all.
It's a moment that is exhilarating,
Yeah.
but it's also heartbreaking.
It is.
You know, we see Tony at his best.
Right.
All his brilliance, his ingenuity, his determination, it's all on display.
Yeah.
He manages to outsmart Thanos,
Yeah.
to steal the Infinity Stones,
Right.
and to deliver that iconic line,
Steals every time.
"And I am Iron Man."
And it's not just a catchphrase, right?
Yeah.
It's a declaration of his identity.
Yeah.
His acceptance of his fate.
Right.
And his willingness to give everything to save the universe.
And he does give everything. He knows that using those stones is going to kill him,
Yeah.
but he doesn't even hesitate.
It's the ultimate act of self-sacrifice.
It is.
The culmination of his entire journey.
Right.
The man who once built weapons of mass destruction,
Yeah.
who was driven by his ego and his ambition,
Yeah.
becomes the man who sacrifices himself to protect all life.
And it's all the more powerful because it comes from a place of love.
Yeah.
You know, he's doing it to create a better future for his daughter and for the world that she's going to inherit.
His death, it's a turning point in the MCU.
It is.
It's a moment that redefines heroism and sacrifice.
Right.
It's not about power.
No.
It's not about being invincible.
It's about making those tough choices.
Yeah.
About putting the needs of others above your own.
Right.
Even when it means losing everything.
And it raises some really profound questions
It does.
about, like, the nature of legacy.
Right.
Tony's legacy isn't just about his technology or his wealth or even Iron Man.
Right.
It's about the impact that he has on others, the inspiration that he leaves behind.
Think about his relationship with Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Tarney saw in Peter
Yeah.
a younger version of himself.
Right.
Someone with incredible potential,
Yeah.
but also this really strong moral compass.
He became a mentor to Peter.
He did.
Almost a father figure.
Yeah.
Trying to guide him down a path
Yeah.
that avoided all the mistakes that he had made.
Right.
He even leaves Peter a message in those final moments,
Right.
a reminder to keep fighting.
Yeah, it's like he's passing the torch
Yeah.
and trusting the future to the next generation.
Absolutely. Tony's ultimate legacy isn't about Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's about inspiring others to become the best versions of themselves.
Right.
To fight for what's right.
Yeah.
To never give up hope, even when things seem impossible.
It's a powerful message.
It is, and I think it's one that we can all relate to.
Yeah.
You know, we all have the potential to make a difference.
Right.
To leave a positive mark on the world.
Absolutely.
And Tony's story shows us that even the most flawed individuals can do amazing things
Yeah.
when they embrace their humanity
Right.
and choose to fight for something bigger than themselves.
Now, you know, moving beyond just the emotional impact of his sacrifice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like the broader implications of Tony's journey.
Right.
He really challenged how we think about what it means to be a hero
Right.
by showing us that it's not about being perfect or invincible.
Yeah.
It's about constantly striving to be better,
Yeah.
learning from your mistakes,
Right.
and using your strengths to make a positive impact on the world.
And that's a message that, like, goes way beyond just superhero movies.
It does.
Tony's story speaks to something universal
Yeah.
about being human,
Yeah.
our ability to grow, to change, to redeem ourselves. He shows us that it's never too late to change course, to make amends for the things that we've done wrong, and to become the heroes of our own stories.
And that's something worth celebrating.
It really is. Now, we've talked a lot about Tony's, like, internal journey,
Yeah.
his psychological and emotional growth.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a minute and talk about how his story influenced the entire MCU
Right.
and even pop culture in general.
Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Tony Stark,
Yeah,
it was iconic.
it was.
He infused the character with this, like, sardonic wit,
Right.
a swagger, a vulnerability
Right.
that audiences hadn't really seen before in a superhero.
Totally. RDJ, he brought this, like, unique blend of charisma and complexity to the role.
He did.
He could be arrogant and charming one minute
Right.
and then deeply introspective and tortured the next.
Exactly. And that unpredictability,
Yeah.
that ability to just switch between humor and drama so effortlessly,
Yeah.
it's what made Tony Stark so captivating.
Yeah, right. He wasn't just a one-dimensional action hero.
No, he wasn't.
He was like a fully realized character
He was.
with flaws, contradictions,
Yeah.
and ultimately this heart of gold.
And let's not forget the impact of his, like, iconic lines.
Right.
I am Iron Man.
Everywhere.
It became this cultural touchstone,
It did.
a phrase that just sums up his entire journey.
Right.
His defiance,
Yeah.
his acceptance of his destiny.
It continues to resonate even years after his last appearance in Endgame.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here, right?
We have.
We've delved into Tony's early life, his transformation, his key themes, his impact on the MCU.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing I want to explore.
Okay.
And that's his influence on pop culture, beyond just superhero films. How did this fictional character become, like, this cultural phenomenon?
Tony Stark's reach goes so far beyond just movies.
Yeah.
I mean, he's become a cultural icon.
Right.
Inspiring everything from, merchandise,
Right.
video games to, like, art and music.
It's like he's become this modern-day mythological figure,
Right.
representing not just, like, superhuman abilities,
Right.
but also human flaws and aspirations.
Right. He's the flawed hero.
Yeah.
The genius billionaire.
Right.
Who makes mistakes.
Yeah.
But ultimately uses his power for good.
And his story has started so many conversations about ethics, technology, responsibility,
Right.
Like, he's become this lens through which we examine our own relationship with all these things. Innovation, progress, the potential consequences of what we do, his struggles with the ethical implications of his inventions, from the Jericho missile in that first film
Right.
to creating Ultron. I mean, they force us to ask these tough questions about our own technological advancements.
They do.
And the responsibility that comes with that.
I think it becomes a cautionary tale.
Right.
But also, like, a source of hope.
Yeah.
Showing us that we can learn from our mistakes and use our ingenuity to create a better future.
In a way that often feels pretty overwhelming, right? Yeah. Where technology is advancing so rapidly, Tony Stark's story, it offers the sense of grounding, like a reminder that it's our choices, our values that really shape our destiny.
Absolutely.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I think it's important to acknowledge that Tony Stark's story is more than just entertainment.
It's a reflection of our own hopes and fears and struggles.
It's a reminder that even when we're facing these huge challenges, we still have the ability to grow, to change, to make a difference.
It is, and it's a testament to the power of human ingenuity and determination. And the enduring spirit of heroism.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm feeling pretty inspired right now.
Me too.
Tony Stark, he might be fictional,
Yeah.
but his legacy, his message, it feels incredibly real and relevant.
Absolutely. I think that's why his story continues to connect with audiences all over the world.
Yeah.
It's a story that speaks to our deepest desires, our anxieties, and our potential for greatness.
Well, we've really explored the depths of Tony Stark's world today,
We have.
unpacked all of his complexities, and celebrated his impact.
Yeah,
But there's always more to
of
discover,
course.
more to analyze, more to think about.
Absolutely.
So let's shift gears one last time
Good.
for a final thought-provoking question. Okay, so we're back.
Okay.
And, we've covered a lot in our deep dive into Tony Stark,
Yeah.
from his past, his really tough past,
Right.
to his heroic sacrifice.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
It is, but there's one question that you asked in your notes that I think is really important to address as we wrap things up. How did Tony Stark actually redefine how we understand what a hero is?
It's a great question, and it really gets to the heart of why his story is so meaningful for so many people. For a long time, the image we had of a hero was someone who was, like, perfect,
Right.
almost like godlike in their
Yeah.
righteousness. They never made the wrong choice, they
Mhm.
never faltered, and their moral compass, it always pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, like Superman.
Exactly.
Or Captain America, at least, back in the day.
Right. They represent a certain ideal,
Yeah.
a kind of, like, aspirational heroism
Right.
that's both inspiring and maybe a little intimidating.
Yeah, a little bit.
But Tony Stark, he kind of turns that on its head.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, he's brilliant, obviously,
Yeah.
but he's also impulsive,
Right.
arrogant,
Yeah.
and oftentimes driven by his ego.
He makes mistakes.
He does.
Some really big ones.
Huge ones.
And he carries those with him.
Yeah, and I think it's in those flaws
Yeah.
that we see ourselves.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
Right.
We all struggle with those, like darker impulses.
Yeah.
And I think we all have the potential to cause harm, even when we have the best intentions.
And Tony's story shows us that being a hero isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about trying to be better,
Hmm.
learning from our mistakes
Absolutely.
and using whatever strengths we have to make a positive impact on the world.
He completely dismantles that idea
Yeah.
that heroes are born, not made.
Yeah.
His heroism is a choice. It's
Mhm.
an ongoing process of, like, looking inward and growing.
Yeah.
Just think about his arc. From that self-absorbed playboy in that very first Iron Man movie
Right.
to the man who willingly sacrifices himself to save the entire universe in Endgame.
It's amazing.
It's a journey that really speaks to our own potential for change, for redemption.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that it's not about these big, grand gestures or
Right.
having superpowers.
It's about the choices that we make every day.
Right.
It's about the battles that we fight within ourselves. It's
Yeah.
about those small acts of kindness and courage that, go out and have a ripple effect.
It's about stepping up and doing what you know is right,
Yeah.
even when it's hard,
Especially when it's hard.
even when it means putting ourselves at risk.
Right. And it's about never giving up on hope,
Right.
even when things feel impossible.
And I think that's why Tony Stark's story still resonates with so many people all over the world.
It does.
He's not just a superhero. He's like this mirror
Right.
reflecting our own struggles, our aspirations, Yeah. and ultimately our potential for change.
His flaws make his heroism even more inspiring
They do.
because it shows us that we don't have to be perfect to make a difference.
Right. We can stumble.
We
We
count
can
on it, yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
But as long as we keep getting back up and trying to do better,
Yeah,
we can be heroes too.
absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Tony Stark, I really hope you all come away from this with a new appreciation for this hero.
Yeah, this complex, flawed,
Yeah.
but ultimately deeply human hero.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and let Tony Stark's story inspire you to embrace your own potential for heroism.
In all its messy, imperfect glory.
That's it for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep those brainwaves firing and never stop exploring.